as a blessing for the space, because this is Jeanette's grand opening week, we light the lamps. We light the ghee lamps, and the light from the ghee reflects wisdom. And may this always be a space that is conducive to opening up your hearts to the wisdom that you already do know, but that we oftentimes forget because we become so caught up in the world around us, the material world. So may this space bring inspiration to you to go deep within yourself, to recover the wisdom that you carry inherently with yourself, and then to not stop there, but to share that wisdom with all the other beings that you come into contact with, no matter how easy or difficult those beings happen to be, no matter the circumstances that you find yourself in. May this space bring such inspiration that it builds community, inspires community, and allows all of us to build the bridges necessary so that the community becomes 100%, not 1%. In this little tin, this little brass tin, there is rice, unbroken rice, which is making a devotion to the Divine Mother here as a small nourishment to her. On the altar, we have Saraswati, which is the mother of my lineage. She is the goddess of education, wisdom, and creativity. We ask her to bless this space and to allow the creative hearts here to be open to creating and co-creating, to never saying no initially, to always saying, let's talk about this, let's explore this, let's experiment with this and see where this goes to have the mind open to, again, the wisdom. We have the Mother Durga. Durga is the mother of the universe. She is the original spiritual warrior. I just love that. She is the divine one that brought forth everything else. And so we ask her to protect this space, to keep it pure in its energy, to remind everybody walking through these doors that this is a sanctuary for all, sanctuary by the sea. Sanctuary means a safe space. It means a space where you can take refuge, a space where you can be safe, but also a space where all others can be safe. So in the eyes of the mother, the heart of the mother, the intention of the mother, may we hold sanctuary for each other in this beautiful space and beyond. We also have the Divine Mother Kali. Now, Ma Kali. Some might say, well, why do we invoke the Mother Kali as a blessing for a space? Because it's very human of us to lose track. It's very human of us to get caught up in the stories of things. So we ask the Mother Kali to keep us on the straight and narrow. We ask her to eliminate the ignorance that we carry with us as human beings, and to empower clarity in our worldview, our personal view, our perspectives of all things. May we have clarity, and may we never give in to the power of ignorance. May we never choose to be lazy in our intellect, in our intention, in our sadhana, or in our life. May we always be as intentional as she is in knowing the truth, living the truth, embodying the truth, and being the truth. We have Ganesha, who of course is known as the remover of obstacles, and we ask him, may there be no obstacles. But because he is not just the remover of obstacles, he is also the one who puts them there. We say, beloved Ganesha, if there are obstacles to be experienced, please let their purposefulness be obvious to us. Let Jeanette recognize, let everyone in this community recognize the purposefulness of obstacles, that if we co-collaborate together, that we can overcome any obstacle and we can retrieve the most divine lessons from those obstacles possible. We also have Shiva. Shiva is the divine consciousness. He is the essence of the universe that is the beyond the intellect. Shiva is the absolute knowing. And so we ask Shiva, with no uncertain terms, may everyone who walks through these doors, who encounters any member of the Sangha that is here, know in no uncertain terms that they are in a place of refuge, in a community of like-mindedness, a space where they can discover their innermost self and that universal truth that we all share. We also have the Divine Mother Varahi here, and she is a fierce form of the Mother Durga, but she is also a deeply compassionate form of the Mother Durga. And she is the one who prospers in the work. May we never forget the work is the point. In each and every moment, our spiritual practice is the work. To show up to ourselves and to all others. To get onto our yoga mat, onto our meditation cushion, to get into the service of eliminating suffering, to do the work of unity, the work of compassion, the work of this tradition, of all traditions. So these beloved beings and more, the mother of compassion, the father of the innermost light of the self. Every time that you see an embodiment of divinity, just know that there is a message in there for you, no matter what tradition you belong to, whether you are a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Sanatana Dharmi, whether you are a Christian, whether you practiced Islam, whatever, or you're a Jewish individual, whatever tradition you belong to, just know that every time that you encounter divinity, whether in the form of a murti or in the form of another human being, that there is a message there for you that can inspire the opening of your own heart, of your own mind, and the empowerment of the truth of your own self. So we offer to all aspects of divinity this beautiful piece of fruit, and we will do a protection blessing of the space. And so we take these black mustard seeds, and if any of you get hit, I apologize. And we cast them off to the north. May you be protected in the north. And we cast them off to the south. May you be protected in the south. And we cast them to the west. May you be protected in the west. And we cast them to the east. May you be protected in the east. And we cast them in the 4 half directions. And we say, may you be protected in all possible directions. And we cast them up. And we say, may we be protected by the heavens. And we cast them down. May we be protected by the earth. And we close the eyes and place the hands onto the heart. And we chant together one beautiful Om, taking a breath in. Bowing your head to your heart, acknowledging yourself, your intention for being here, your intention in this life, on your path, and draw your face to center. And so we gather here today. Oh, Naranjana, can you hand me my phone if you don't mind? We gather here today for Satsang and Kirtan. Thank you. For a spiritual conversation. That is what Satsang means. Spiritual conversation, spiritual discussion, discovery of wisdom, and Kirtan, the chanting of devotional mantras. And so we begin, of course, in the tradition, like as we always do, with Ganesha, and asking Ganesha to eliminate any obstacles to our gathering today and to open up the potential of our hearts to joy. And so in order to understand Ganesha a little bit more, we'll share a little story about Ganesha. And I'm choosing this story because in the world today, there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of disagreement and a lot of negativity. And Ganesha is the example to us of the fact that we don't need to give in to that. We don't need to take part in it. We don't need to get swept away by it. That we can, in fact, do the right thing, remain joyful, and still make a potential difference. When Ganesha was young, there was another deity who looked similar to him, had an elephant head. And so this deity was jealous of Ganesha. or this being, was jealous of Ganesha, and he would bully him. He would follow him around, he would talk negatively about him, he would try to call him out into fights, he would try to instigate him to show everybody that Ganesha was not all that and then some, to try to show that he was stronger than Ganesha, that he had some kind of power over Ganesha. And Ganesha always just ignored him and went about his business. So one day, now it's important to know that Ganesha is the child of Parvati and Shiva. Shiva, as we mentioned earlier, is divine consciousness. In the embodied form, he lives on Mount Kailash in India, and he's a meditator, a very divine meditator. He goes off into meditations for thousands of years, very, very beautiful, beautiful, compassionate discipline to sit there and to just be in that divine space for such a long period of time, choosing stillness and peace over the drama of the world. So he's away meditating. And Ganesha is there, let's just say, playing with the butterflies or listening to the birds or just enjoying the day. And this being comes to Ganesha's home and he starts to call him out loudly. Ganesha, I know you're here. Come out now. For once and for all, we're going to show everybody who is the boss here. Who's the strong one? Who's the good one? I'm just going to show them all what a fake and fraud you are. And Ganesha is sitting there and he's like, oh, I'm just going to leave him be. He's still going about his business, probably dancing, maybe eating grapes off of the grapevine. Who knows? But he was enjoying life. But this being was so loud, so obnoxious, that he disturbed Shiva. And Shiva's voice bellowed across the mountain. Ganesha, are you going to take care of this or should I? Now, anybody who has done some reading on Shiva knows that in Shiva's embodiment, he might have a relationship with anger. They might be very good friends. And so Ganesha, knowing this, says to himself compassionately, better I handle this. Better I do this. So this being comes close to where Ganesha is. Ganesha steps out into his purview. And the being doesn't even have an opportunity to take a punch. Nothing. He doesn't even get a single word out of his mouth. Ganesha knocks him out without a punch. Knocks him out. The being wakes up, comes to, and bows at Ganesha's feet and says, how did you do that? I didn't even see you coming. I didn't feel anything. All I knew is one moment I'm yelling at you profusely, and the next moment I'm on the ground at your feet. So now I am on the ground at your feet asking you to teach me. Take me as your student. Let me learn from you how to do that. And Ganesh is listening to him and he's like, this could be false, some kind of envy or something. So he asks him, he says, why do you want to learn this? Why do you want me to teach you? And the being explains to him, he says, well, my whole life I've been ridiculed. Nobody sees me as anything special. Everybody sees you as special. I've never been given the types of accolades, love, care that you've been given. You come first in everything. Every ritual starts with you. Every prayer starts with you. Everything starts with you. Nothing starts with me. And Ganesha, taking great compassion for this being, says to him, well, so you want to learn about speed. That's what you're in love with. And he goes, well, yeah, because if I can learn how to do what you just did, if I can have that kind of control, people will have respect for me. He says, okay. I will take you as my student under 2 conditions. Number 1, you must agree to be my devotee. So whatever I need, you have to do it for me. Carry me wherever it is that I'm going to go, and be first to the teachings and the sadhana that I give you. And he says, absolutely, yes, 100%. I am your devoted servant. You are my guru. What's the second? And he says, well, people are going to get confused if they see two elephant-headed beings. They won't really know which one's the teacher, which one's the student. So, that coupled with the fact that you're really interested in learning about speed, precision, quickness, we should change you into a form conducive to that. And he said, absolutely, whatever you think is best. So he was changed into the form of a mouse. And many of you have seen that mouse, because he's always pictured with Ganesha, right by his foot. His name is Mushika, the mouse, or the rat, as he's sometimes called. Now, some might think that being changed into a mouse or a rat is like a curse, but it's not. Because now this being has been given the opportunity to serve divinity, to come into a truer sense in their heart of devotion, to be with Ganesha every day, all day. And he's often also seen situated underneath of Ganesha's left hand, which has usually got a ladu in it, or 3. And those are those little sweets, right? Now we all say, oh my gosh, yes, they are good, aren't they? They're so delectable. But they actually represent divine wisdom. And he sits underneath of them because he's just waiting for the little pieces to fall so that he can abide in the wisdom, the epiphanies that he receives along the way through his studies with Ganesha. And so he just sits and he waits, and he carries Ganesha wherever he goes, and he's there whenever he's needed. So Ganesha as the remover of obstacle, Ganesha as the one who places obstacles, Ganesha as the one who unlocks the wisdom that we carry within us by way of what we might think are obstacles. Rashmi she shared a story earlier. She said that she was going to open, and she made an announcement. And all of a sudden the town came and said, you can't do that. You have to go through the process. Process is an obstacle, is it not? Right? But in that process, through that obstacle, what came? Relationships. The mayor, local individuals who want to be involved or who would like to co-collaborate, right? Co-create. So there's no obstacle that is not worthy of you. There's no obstacle that is beneath you. There's only opportunity to grow and learn and be. So we're going to chant to Ganesha. And I'll turn it over to Niranjana and Balchandra.
Thank you so much. I just want to sit and listen to you. So this is number 1 on your sheet, and you can repeat after me. Om, Gam, Ganapataye, Namaha, Ganesha Sharanam, Sharanam Ganesha. Okay, great. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.
you all feel it?
Wow.
What do you feel? Put a word to it.
Zen.
Very good. What do you feel?
Peace, calm.
Peace. Anybody else? What do you
Buzz.
feel? What was that?
Buzz.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, the
That's
spiritual
the word.
buzz, the
Yeah.
euphoric buzz, right? Do you know that that's the point? That's the point. It's the mantra itself is the power, absolutely. It's the power of what though? It's the power of awakening consciousness. When you chant a mantra, it awakens your consciousness. And when your consciousness is awakened, you feel the buzz. Now, we get caught up in the material aspect of the world, so we go out and have a beer or smoke a joint or go shopping and buy a whole bunch of stuff we don't need or get in arguments that are pointless because we're in search of the buzz. And we have to be really careful because that buzz, which is an artificial buzz, which is an imposter buzz, that buzz is highly addictive. It's highly addictive. And so we think, well, it got my blood flowing, it got me excited, it got me something, therefore it must have some value to it. But the reality is no. In those 15 to 30 seconds after the mantra, were you buying anything? No. Arguing with anybody? No. Were you having a drink? No. Were you smoking a joint? No. Were you engaged in any activity at all other than sitting with the stillness of your very own self? No. Therefore, the answer is you. Period. There's nothing outside of yourself that's going to bring that to you. Only yourself. And this is why sitting in silence for at least 15 to 30 seconds, at a minimum, and I actually like to say as long as possible, days even. But of course that takes time to be able to cultivate. But at least until that buzz wears down a little bit, sit with that, because that is the evidence of consciousness itself. That is the evidence of your own inner peace. That is the point. So don't just rush. Don't be like, okay, that mantra's over, next. No, don't, no. Because then you miss that sweetness. You miss the point. Which means that we're just continuing to look for the stimulation outside of ourselves. When you sit at the end of the mantra, you're allowing it to, you know how when you make, who in here's made bread? You know you have to knead the bread, right? The dough. In those moments after the mantra, you're being kneaded. You're being worked. You're being moved about in such a way as to create spiritual circulation. The energy of divinity having expansive expression within you by way of that beautiful buzz. Absolutely, by that peace, by that calm. And then a lot of us, we don't have a tendency to put one and one together and come up with two. We have a tendency to put one and one together and come up with all kinds of beautiful, fantastical ideas that aren't based in reality. So we say, I'm on this path of yoga, this path of spirituality, whatever you call your path. I'm on this path, and what I'm seeking is peace, but I just can't find it. Just can't find it. No matter what I do, I can't find it. So many students come and they say, I'm trying so hard, but I can't find it. It's like, stop trying so hard. Because it's not like a hidden Easter egg. You're not going to discover it under all of the magazines in the magazine rack next to the couch. It's not hidden under a bush outside. It's not at your local department store or at the bar. It's in none of those places. The only place that it exists is here, within you. Within you. Now that's a half-true statement. And here's why it's a half-true statement. Because that peace that you're seeking exists within you only. And then once you know that, it exists everywhere. But when you don't know that, it exists nowhere. So if you want 1 + 1 to equal 2, then sit still for at least 30 to 45 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, maybe a couple hours after a mantra, and receive the evidence of the internal nature of peace. Because that's where it is. That's the point. You chant the mantra. How many of you do japa every day, chanting repetitious mantras every day? Yeah, very good. So you chant those repetitious mantras, and you know at the end the difference in your day between when you sit there for a little while and just experience the energy of your japa, or you jump up and run out the door and get to work. You know the difference. There is a difference. That's the proof. That's the evidence that peace exists within you. When you rush to get to the outside world, peace is lost. But when you sit down and surrender to the inside, peace is found. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all you have to know. Now, the beautiful thing, and I think it's one of the main things that initially brought me to this path, even if I didn't really know it at the time, is that of all the traditions, and all traditions have something wonderful to offer us, but of all the traditions that I have dabbled in, practiced, looked at, studied, and I've studied quite a few of them, Sanatana Dharma is the only one that gives you an absolute roadmap. It tells you exactly what to do, how to do it, when not to do it. It tells you what to do when you encounter obstacles, what to do when you encounter happiness, what to do when you encounter... It tells you everything that you need to know. Its sister science, Ayurveda, tells you exactly how to live your life from the moment you're born until the moment you die. It tells you everything that you need to know in order to be the best possible human being that you can be. And I don't mean the best possible human being that you can be like in relationship to what society wants from you. I mean the utmost spiritual expression of who you really are. That's what it guides you to. And that's the plan that it lays out for you, the roadmap that it lays out to you, empowers you, if you follow that map, to become like Ram or Sita. Ram, oftentimes referred to as the perfect man, the perfect citizen. He's honorable, truthful, has great devotion. He has courage. He knows the difference between right and wrong. He is humble. And he will always fight on the side of what is right. Not right like his ego tells him what's right. Because just like every other human being, I'm certain that Ram had an ego. And there's even some stories that indicate that. But he knows the difference between what the ego wants and what is correct. And he fights for what is correct. Sita is the perfect woman. Not just because she's beautiful on the outside, but because she's humble, she's courageous, she's not afraid of sacrifice. She knows what the right thing to do is, and she does it even at her own expense. She's the mirror of Ram. Whether you're looking at Ram or you're looking at Sita, you're seeing the same thing. You are seeing a perfected human being. It doesn't mean that they didn't have imperfections along the way. And this is another misnomer on the spiritual path. So many students go and they say, I don't think I can live up to what you're saying. Like, I'm not asking you to live up to anything. Mm-hmm. That's the most beautiful thing in the world. I'm not asking you to. You know what I'm asking? If I'm asking anything at all, because in all honesty, I just love storytelling. Okay? I love storytelling. To me, I sit here and I hear these stories, I don't know how many times I've shared them, but they still inspire me. They still make me want to sit up taller and go into the details and think about it and talk about it and share it. And what you do with it, that's your business. But if I did have one wish, it would be that you would explore it and what it means for you. That you would take the time in your own life to say, what is my egoic concept of a perfect person and what is the truth of a perfect person? According to the tradition that I practice, or yoga, what is a perfected person? And then you find out for yourself where you are adhering to ideas and beliefs that don't suit you, that are not suited to you discovering the true nature of yourself. And where you can adapt to these other ideas, understandings that are part of the roadmap to the truth of yourself. So what is it to be a perfected person? This talk could go on for many hours. So I'll just give you a couple of notes from Sita and Ram's Leela, from their divine drama. Yeah, they have drama too, just like we do. One must know the difference between right and wrong, between what is ethical and unethical. Or at least be willing to consider that there actually is a difference, and then be willing to look at it, even if one is not sure which is which, to look at it and to understand that there's a difference between what the ego is going to tell you and what the heart is going to compel you to. What the spiritual heart is going to compel you to. And then what the spiritual heart compels you to is what you adhere to. No matter how difficult, how unpopular, no matter, that you work to build the courage, the bravery, the strength within your own self, the discernment, the discipline necessary to be with what is right and to turn away from what is not. The second thing is to know love. Love, not human love. Human love is infatuation. It can turn into something much more profound, but let's face it, who in here did not have a first love? Remember that first love? Eyes were all doe-eyed and starry-eyed, and ideas in the mind about being swept away or doing the sweeping away, and all these ideas, all of these fantasies about what love is. How many of you have outgrown those thoughts and ideas? Right? We still live with this fantasy about what love is. But what is love really? In the tradition, it can be put in a number of different ways, but one thing is that love is honoring. Love is honoring. It is honoring of the truth of another being, as well as of the self. And that other being doesn't have to agree with you. That other being doesn't have to be the mirror of you. That other being doesn't have to be a yogi or a Buddhist or a Catholic or whatever. It's just an acknowledgement, a simple, humble acknowledgement. We are all on the same path, the exact same path. And when I see you behaving in a way that I perceive as detrimental, harmful, violent, not truthful, passionate, enjoying, happy, celebratory, what I'm seeing is a mirror image of myself to some degree, and also a fear of what I may or may not be myself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No one said being human was easy, right? It's not easy. If anything, it's the hardest embodiment because it's the furthest. Look at animals. Animals understand that they're still part of nature. They don't sit there and say, nature's over there and I'm over here and I can control everything, including nature. No. You will never see a non-human being say that. They're nature. We, on the other hand, are over here thinking that nature is over there and that we're going to somehow control her, define her, make her what we want her to be. So we have our head full of all kinds of silliness. Love is knowing we belong. We all belong. No matter the similarities, no matter the differences, no matter the diversity, no matter the belief systems, we all belong because we are all co-creating this world together. We are not where we are today because someone stood out into a corner and said, I'm not getting involved in that co-creation. That in and of itself, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you think you make a choice to do nothing and therefore you have no responsibility? The choice of doing nothing is a choice. It's a karma. We are all co-creating this world together. And if we really want to see this world brought to a place of less suffering and more love, then we have to do the work to make that so. So the first part of love is that it's an acceptance and knowing and understanding that we all belong, every one of us without exception. The second part of love is that I do not control you. I do not condemn you. I do not give you permission. It's not my power. I don't have the power to tell you who you are or who you are not. You have that power. And I respect that 100%. So I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, how to not live your life. That's up to you. What I will do is witness. And I won't witness in a judgy way, like, oh gosh, look at them go again. No, I will witness in a way that acknowledges your suffering and your victories and your enjoyment, that will abide by the 4 rules of relationship. To be happy for those who are happy. To be appreciative of those who are kind and compassionate. To have compassion for those who are suffering. And to be indifferent to the wicked. They're laid out in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras just like that. So love is knowing how to embody those 4 rules of relationship. And then finally, love is allowing there to be an expression of divinity emanating from within your own self, from within all other selves, and knowing that all those selves are the same self. It's divine love. We're one. We're not divided. In the material world, yes, we are divided. Yeah, 100%, absolutely we're divided. Some of you are wearing blue shirts, some of you are wearing gray shirts, some of you are wearing red, some are wearing orange. There's all kinds of divisions in the material world. But in the spiritual world, there's 0 division. The Divine Mother loves not only Shiva and Krishna and Ram, she also loves Munda and Chamunda. She just sees them as wayward children. They're having a little bit of a tough time. But she loves them equally. She doesn't pick and choose and say, you're better than you. No, her love blankets all beings everywhere without differentiation. Now I know this sounds lofty, doesn't it? How many of you think it doesn't sound lofty? It sounds lofty. It's very lofty because every single person in this room right now is thinking of at least 2, 4, 5, 10 people. They're like, ain't no way. Cannot love that person. Yes, you can. Now, here's the misunderstanding about love, about divine love. You think that you have to go up to somebody, throw your arms around them, give them a great big hug and be like, man, I just love you. You're absolutely wonderful. Let me bow at your feet. Let me yes you to death. Let me buy you dinner. Let me show you how much I love you. And that's incorrect. You never have to see a person in order to love them. You never have to lay physical eyes on them. Just knowing that they are alive and struggling the same way that you are alive and struggling is enough to initiate love. If we were going to say love another way, we could say that divine love is the inner soul intention that all beings everywhere should be free of suffering, that they should come into the realization of the truth of the self, that I will not get in their way, I will not increase their suffering or their ignorance, I will not cause them pain and sorrow. So to love someone, you don't have to be their BFF. To love someone is also not to make excuses for people's poor behavior. That's not it either. You cannot make excuses for poor behavior. If you are invested in your spiritual path, you have to see clearly. This is Kalima, see clearly. Don't play games. Be like, well, it's okay if they do it. No, maybe it's not okay if they do it. If it's not okay, it's not okay. That's not a condemnation of the person. It's a condemnation of the action that you are learning from. You are learning directly by way of witnessing how you should or should not be acting yourself. So there'll be no condemnation of people. Only witnessing and understanding that which causes additional harm and that which does not. Woo! Very good. Is that okay for everybody, the light? Yeah, okay. All right, wonderful. So Ram and Sita in the stories, they are the epitome of the perfect man, the perfect woman, the perfect couple, the perfect human beings. And so we'll chant to them for a little while now. Number 2?
Number
Is it 2?
4.
Oh, number 4. Okay, number 4.
Perfect. Sitaram. Jai Jai Hanuman.
Jai Jai Hanuman. We'll talk about him after.
Devotee goals right there. Sita.
Gently fluttering your eyes open, if you want to. So we have Sita and Ram is the epitome of perfect humanity. And then we have Hanuman. And Hanuman is the epitome of the perfect devotee. And he's pretty spectacular if you think about it. Like, how many of you are familiar with Hanuman? Yeah? So Hanuman is an interesting being. He's human, but he doesn't look human. He looks half human and half like a monkey. So his face is like a Hanuman langur, very common monkey found in India. And he has a tail like a monkey, because monkeys have tails and great apes don't. Okay, so remember that. Don't call chimpanzees or gorillas monkeys, because they're not. And so it's interesting, because when you think about Hanuman, the first thing that usually comes to an individual's mind who's familiar with the story of Hanuman is how devoted he was to Rama. That he spent a good portion of his life, once he met Rama, the rest of his life, bowing down to Ram and serving him in whatever way was needed, whether that was helping in the rescue of Sita and many other ways, getting the herbs off of the mountain for Rama's brother when he was poisoned, and so many other stories. And we think to ourselves, well, if that's what it takes to be a devotee, if it takes devoting myself 100% to that which I have decided I adore, whatever avatar of divinity that happens to be, or a guru in some people's situations, I don't know, that might just be too much. Like, I'm not that perfect. I'm not that perfect. I can't manage that. But that's because our human minds are very nitpicky, and we choose which part of the story we're going to want to focus on. And oftentimes, through an act of self-sabotage, we focus on the hardest part of the story and think that that's where we have to start. That's not where Hanuman started. Correct? Hanuman started as a child, as a rather rambunctious, mischievous child. And there's probably every single person in this room who in their life in some way, shape, or form right now, never mind when you were 7, but right now you are a rambunctious, mischievous child. So you're very much like Hanuman started out. Hanuman used to do things as a child, like he would throw rocks at the meditating monks in the forest to irritate them. Yeah, right? Who do you throw rocks at to irritate? There are some stories in those laughters, I can tell. Hanuman had a ravenous hunger as a child, as most children do, right? So what are you ravenous for? What can you not get enough of? Well, for Hanuman, it was mangoes. Right? He wanted mangoes. And so one day, he looked up to the sky and he saw this big orange thing. And he thought, that is the biggest mango I have ever seen. And so, as the rambunctious, mischievous, and not well thought out child that he was, how many of you fit that definition? He tried to jump up and take a bite out of that mango, which was actually not a mango. It was the sun. And he startled the sun in such a way that the sun smacked him back down to the earth and broke his jaw, which is how he got the name Hanuman. The jaw broken. He also cursed Hanuman at that point. Now, some say that the monk cursed Hanuman. Other stories say that the sun cursed Hanuman, and there's a few other stories out there as well. But at any rate, Hanuman became cursed. And the curse was something like this. May you forget yourself, how great you think you are, your strength, your courage, May you forget whatever there is about you. Just forget it. Just spend the rest of your life looking for it. How many of you fit that, Bill? Who in here is not searching for something about yourself? So Hanuman is right where we are, or he was right where we are. And so he went about his life searching, seeking something that would remind him of the thing that he seems to have forgotten, but he can't put his finger on. Like it's so close, but he just, And then one amazing fateful day, as he's journeying up a mountain to go to his uncle's kingdom to support his uncle, whose kingdom had been usurped by another being, his path crosses with Rama's path. And there's two versions of this story. One is that initially there was a conflict between he and Rama, that he looked at Rama as if he were one of the invading beings, like he was very defensive. And aren't we all kind of like that when we meet a teacher? Aren't we? I mean, come on, We're like, I'm not sure about this. But at some point, and it didn't take very long, Hanuman fell down at the feet of Rama. And he said, you are who I have been searching for my whole life. You. Because you are the reflection of me. You are what brings me home to myself. So I will spend the rest of my life serving you. And so from that point forward, now there was another little part of this curse that was put upon him. May he forget who he really is until he's called to remember. And Ram called him to remember. He called him to remember when Sita was captured by Ravana and held captive on Lanka. He was called to remember when Rama sent him on the journey to go find the herb that would cure his brother. He remembered. But then inevitably he would come back to a place, at least initially, where he forgot again. Any of you cannot relate to that? You remember a little bit, then you forget, then you remember a little bit, then you forget. So even though Hanuman has met his beloved, the embodiment of divinity, even though he has set his mind on the path, he has made a decision and said, I am going to be a servant to you for the rest of my days, he still is struggling between remembering and forgetting. So just because you find yoga doesn't mean like everything's peachy keen now. It doesn't mean it's all sparkles and unicorn poop. I mean, come on. It's not all really fancy t-shirts with fancy words written on them and life is just great. No. As a matter of fact, it gets harder. It gets so much harder. Because it's not enough that we have discovered ourselves to be on this path. But now we actually have to walk it knowing that. There's no room for ignorance there. There's a little room for ignorance, but there's not much room, Before, when we were in complete denial of the path, when we were in complete denial of the truth of ourselves, we could get away with stuff. I was going to say shit, but we could get away with stuff. And we would let ourselves off the hook. But now that we are knowingly walking this path, and our version of Ram is in front of us, whatever that is, maybe it's Christ, maybe it's Buddha, maybe it's Allah, maybe it's Shiva, Durga, that is right there in front of us. It's within us also. And now we have to call ourselves on it. And we have to say, well, I guess I'm not really behaving in alignment with the love that I profess for divinity, am I? So I guess I have to make some changes, and those changes are not comfortable in any way, shape, or form. So the road actually gets a bit harder and a bit more treacherous too, because when you step foot knowingly, one in front of the other, you start to lose a few things. Like you'll lose the friends who don't get it. You won't really lose them, but they'll back away. You'll still love them, but they'll back away, and that will cause you to feel guilty. It'll cause you to feel scared. It'll cause you to doubt yourself. But as they say in the teachings, do not doubt. Because the moment that you doubt yourself on your spiritual path, that doubt is like a weed. It will grow and take over everything. So just behave in alignment with the ethics. For yoga, the yama and the niyamas. For Christianity, the 10 commandments. Whatever the tradition is that you belong to, you have those ethics. They are written down for you in some format. Abide by those. Let them be your road markers in life. And any time that you behave contrary to those, adjust yourself, correct yourself. Over time, Hanuman comes to a place where, because now he's constantly in service of Rama, so he's forgetting less and less, remembering more and more. And there's a great war, goes on for probably thousands upon thousands of years. Sita is rescued, and there's a huge celebration because the war is over and Sita is back home now. And so the way that this story was first told to me, it was actually quite amazing. It was a gentleman who used to work on Wall Street as a financier, and he was told by a Brahmin that he was going to leave that job and he was going to become involved in the temple culture. And he laughed at him because he said he had no faith. He was like, he goes, I don't practice Hinduism. I mean, my parents are, but I'm not, And then a day not too long after that came where all of a sudden he woke up the next morning. He left his job and he went to work learning how to make murtis and to bring them to the temples and things like that and to install them. So just amazing. And then he would go around and he would tell these beautiful, beautiful parables. So he explains this celebration as, these flying carpets, because it's defined as like flying cities, so these cities up in the air and huge celebrations going on. And there's a procession of individuals who Rama is giving accolades to. And he calls Hanuman up. And there's a little story behind why he gives him this object, but what he gives him is a gold ring. He says, this is the ring that was so central to the rescue of Sita, therefore you shall have it. And so, Rama's, thank you, walks away, goes over by the edge, which I'm hoping had a little fence there or something for him to lean on, not just an open edge that he could fall into the ocean, but, So he's sitting there and he's looking at this ring and he smells it. And he bites it. And he inspects it. And he takes it and he throws it over. And another warrior saw him do this and went up to him and said, what is the matter with you? How disgusting behavior. Do you not understand what that was? And so, you can imagine this person's outrage, thinking that Hanuman dishonored Rama by doing this, by taking that ring and tossing it over into the ocean. And so the conflict occurred of words. And Hanuman looked at this person and said, what I threw overboard wasn't Rama. It was a ring. And nowhere in there was there Ram. I smelled it, I tasted it, I bit into it, couldn't find him anywhere. That does me no good. The only thing that brings goodness is Ram. So the man tells Hanuman, you have no love for Ram. If you had love for Ram, you would have never done that. And Hanuman looked at him, and he took his monkey claws, and he dug him into his chest, and he ripped his chest open, ribcage and all, exposed his heart, and on his heart was a picture of Ram, was Ram himself in his heart. Now later in time it was Ram and Sita, but initially it was just Ram. And so Hanuman said, I don't need an object outside to define my love and respect for Ram. All there is Ram. He is what makes the blood flow in my veins. He is what brings forward every breath. So now he's at a place where we might feel a little uncomfortable. Now he's at a place where, yes, it is asking a lot of the seeker, a lot of the devotee, a lot of the one who wants to know the truth about themselves. It's saying, this story, this part of the story is telling us that in order for you to come to a consistent sense of knowing the truth of your own self, you have to throw away everything else. You cannot hold anything in higher value than knowledge of the truth. It doesn't mean that you have to like go home now and go sell your house and give away your kids. You might want to, but you don't have to, you know. What it means is release your attachment to those things. They're transient. Your children are going to grow up and go to college, live their own lives, have their own families, which you'll be part of. But it'll be different. Your car is inevitably going to break down, and at some point you might need a new one. Your job can come and go. Friends can come and go. Every single thing in this material world can come and go. Why are you supergluing yourself to them? Why are you saying this is it and this is all there is? When that is not all there is. That is actually not anything of what there is. It's a tool, it's a time, it's an experience. If you see God in your child, then you'll never lose your child. If you see everything that you receive in this life as a gift from divinity in order for you to more profoundly walk your spiritual path and be your spiritual self, then you won't lose anything. Because how can you lose anything in a universe that offers you everything? Things that you haven't even begun to think of yet. Hanuman knew this, but it's a hard thing to know because we're so infused with the fear of lack. And especially nowadays. Not because nowadays are worse than the 1800s or the 1700s or the 1300s or whenever other time there was, but because now is the time that you're living and experiencing. And there's conflict in the world and you know it. And you're witnessing that conflict every day, whether it's through newspaper headlines or Facebook posts or whatever it happens to be, maybe direct experience. You're experiencing that. So there's never been a more challenging, difficult time to have faith than right now for you, because right now is when you are alive. But these teachings tell us, don't fret. Don't become lost in the idea that this world is only ever going to be at conflict with itself. Don't lose yourself in the attachments to the things outside of yourself, and that includes the arguments and the conflicts. Instead, be like Hanuman. Say, no matter what comes your way, how does this bring me closer to the truth? How does this teach me? How can I be of greater service? How can I serve the greater need in the world? And sometimes that's by coming forward and providing an actual service, like, you know, what Rashmi Ma is doing here, providing the service of this beautiful space, of all of the services that she provides, and the classes and the meditation. And sometimes it's by staying quiet. You ever meet somebody randomly, like, let's just say that you're on a subway, and you get onto the subway, and you know, there's all these chatty people around, and you're just kind of feeling like, I don't want to be chatty. Please don't sit next to me if you're chatty. Please don't sit next to me if you're chatty. And a couple of people get on the next stop, and there's a couple that are really chatty, and there's one quiet person. And that quiet person takes the seat next to you, and they're just quiet. Isn't that a gift? So you see, there's a gift in not sticking your nose into other people's business, to not putting yourself into the center of a situation. There's a gift that's given there. The difficult one is knowing which is which. Like, which one is it time to start? Is it time to stop? Is it time to enter? Is it time to leave? What is the time? And I wish that there was like a secret to tell you that would, you know, let you know that, but that's something that you have to discover according to your karmas, your koshas, your tendencies, your devotion, your faith, how closely you adhere to the teachings of your tradition. So before we go to the next mantra, I'm going to say any questions or reflections right now. Any questions or reflections? Are you finding this interesting? Slightly amusing? Inspirational? Hopefully.
All the above.
All right, so no questions. Okay. So how about, what do we have?
We're still on Ram. We have another one.
Let's do another one. Which one?
The other Ram.
No, you said something about Durga, number 3.
Let's do Durga. And then we'll talk about Durga after. And that'll give us time. So we'll do Durga and then a talk and then Om Namah Shivaya. Now, as we prepare to chant this beautiful mantra to the Mother Durga, she is wisdom. She is Shakti embodied. Shakti has no form. How many of you have heard the word Shakti? How many of you know exactly what that is? I'm so glad nobody raised their hand. Because we can't define that. All we can say is that in our limited human mentality and intellect, we understand that she is power. Therefore, she is the power of wisdom. She is the power to blink your eyes. She is the power of the seed to sprout. She is the power of making the correct and the incorrect choices, the right choices and the unethical choices. She is power absolute. There is no power in existence that is not Shakti. Shakti does not have a form. She doesn't have red hair, brown hair, gray hair. She doesn't have a body type or a tone of skin. She has no characteristics. She is merely power and is oftentimes associated with the power of lightning. When Shakti embodies, embodiment is a form. And according to some of the teachings, the first embodiment is that of Durga. The first embodiment of all that power is the Mother Durga. And she's in the center here, sitting on top of a lion. Perhaps we'll come back next month and do a conversation of Durga. She is the one who bears witness and offers wisdom. She is the one who, her name means that which is difficult to reach. It's translated a few ways, but that which is difficult to reach, because is wisdom easy? No. Is right action easy? No. Is faith easy? No. But if you practice these 3 things to the point where they are natural to you, they become your natural expression because they were all along, then you have reached her. Not as if you reached her because, like, I'm going to walk over to Debbie right now and give her a hug. No, she's never been outside of yourself. You've reached her because you've gone far enough inside that you've discovered that she's been there all along. You've had the power, it is yours. The truth, it is yours. The wisdom, it is yours. It's just that you were looking the other way all this time. So now we chant to the Mother Durga and ask her, help us resituate ourselves, turn us around, a little kick in the butt if we need it, so that we can wake up to the truth, to the wisdom. Do you want to plug that in?
The lighting crew over here.
Is it going to be okay now? All right. Do you need me to move?
Oh, we have one of those weird random outlets in the middle of the wall too. Like,
Like, what were they thinking? Somebody had a good idea, but it didn't last. See, everything is transient. It's
permanent. So, so number 3 on your sheet. Jai Ma, hey Durga.
Jai
Jagatambe.
Jai Jagadambe.
Jai
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Wow. Jai Ma.
Is that shocking?
What was that?
Is that shocking?
That's
We're losing light. Nearly fell over.
We're overloading the electrical system.
That
Yeah.
was Hunaman.
Oh boy. What a beautiful mantra. What a beautiful mother. So some of you might have felt very compelled during that mantra. Some of you might have felt very compelled during a previous mantra and less compelled in that one. And I've had students ask, like, why? Why does one mantra speak to me so much and another mantra maybe not as much? Is that bad? And the answer is no, it's not bad. It's all dependent upon your karma, on your tendencies, on how you are presenting in a moment, as to what is going to open that window of spiritual opportunity so that you can feel. Sometimes it's Hanuman, sometimes it's Shiva, sometimes it's Kali, sometimes it's a concept. But in the teachings it states, and I would have to go back and look and see which teaching this is. I do believe it's in the Tattva Bodha by Shankara, that if you love Shiva, that's beautiful. Love Shiva. But if you love Shiva, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, if you love Shiva and you hate Christ, or you deny the divinity of Christ, then you do not really love Shiva. If you love Shiva and you deny the divinity of Kali, or of any other aspect of God, of any name of God or goddess, then the thing that you claim to love, you do not love, you are simply attached to it. It's only when we come to a place that we love all the same that we truly love. Our karmas and the energy, the heaviness that those karmas cause in our life experience, in some part influence what we can or what we are willing to and what we are unwilling to love, what we are willing to and unwilling to open up to. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the simple answer is clean up your karma. Clean up your karma and allow yourself to love across the board evenly. Try not to have preference. I mean, if you on your altar at home, you have Kali on your altar. On my altars are a bit populated. They truly are. They're very populated. But let's just say on one of my altars, I have only one Murti. I have the Mother Durga. She is my chosen avatar. But I don't just see the Mother Durga. I see all of them in her. Every single one of them. And when I see my favorite picture of Jesus Christ, now when I was being raised, I went to Catholic school for many years, and all of my first level education up until 7th or 8th grade. And when I see Jesus, all I saw was the wholeness of humanity. because that's what he represents. The wholeness of humanity, not its brokenness. That's an aspect of our lived experience, but he is wholeness. Christ is wholeness. Christ is the light, is he not? When I read about any other aspect of divinity, or I see a picture, my favorite picture of Christ is when he's sitting meditating, and all the animals in the forest are around him, and it's very much like Prajapati. It's very much like Shiva sitting there meditating with all the animals around him. That's my favorite picture of him, because in that picture it's so easy to see everything. It's very difficult to segregate it out, to separate it out. So whenever you see a representation of divinity, if you find yourself asking, is this Hinduism, is this Catholicism, is this Judaism, what is this? Ask yourself a different question. Ask yourself, what am I looking at? Am I able to see everything in this one depiction? Can I see all aspects of divinity here? All aspects of goodness? It's not easy. It sounds pretty, right? It sounds attractive. It sounds inspiring, but it's not easy in any way, shape, or form. When you get to the point that in life, and very few have done this, very few. When you get to a point in life, which eventually you will in some life, if not this one, where you see God in everything and everything in God, you will know consciousness, because you will be that consciousness. You will know nothing else. You won't know differences between people, differences between names of God, differences in weather. None of that will have any meaning to you any longer. The only thing that there will be is unity in consciousness. And in that unity, there will only be divine love. And that is what Shiva represents in the Mahashiva form. Shiva as consciousness is unity. Shiva as consciousness is divine love, is oneness. No differentiation. None. But Shiva in the embodied form reminds us that there's work to be done. There's anger management to be had. There's patience to be cultivated. Remember when he ended Kama, the Lord of Desire? He shot a ray through his third eye and demolished him.
To ash.
To ash.
He was trying to introduce him to his wife.
Who he ends up marrying anyway. Talk about resistance.
Can't do a man a solid no now.
But Kama's wife comes to Shiva. So the quick story is this. So Shiva has lost his wife, Sati. She has emulated, she's burned herself as a result of a conflict with her father, who disliked Shiva intensely and dishonored him greatly. And so in a moment of great anger, she goes up in flames. Now, she goes up in flames. Sati is Shakti, so she doesn't die. She's going back to the ethers. But Shiva in this form is embodied and very much invested in the material aspect of this manifested world. And he thinks, my wife is dead. And he becomes distraught, and he goes and he collects her body, puts it over his shoulder, and starts to run. And every time that his foot touches the ground, something happens, like a tsunami or an earthquake or a great fire, some massive destruction, which is the earth taking his anger, his rage, and his grief. So eventually, Vishnu starts to follow him, and with his chakra, he starts to cut the pieces of Sati's body as Shiva is running, and each one of those pieces falls to earth. And where those pieces fall to earth, temples were built. And those temples are called Shaktipits. And each temple has a story of the part of her body that fell there. So in one place, her fingers, another place her eyes, another place her breasts, her whole body. Finally, she's not there anymore. Vishnu explains to Shiva what he had done, because Shiva was very angry when he realized. But then he forgave Vishnu because he recognized the gift that it actually was to Sati's memory and to humanity. And he goes off in a very long meditation. He goes and he sits in meditation, and he's sitting there, and Shiva, in that state of deep grief and deep anger and deep sorrow, it was just not conducive to the work of divinity. So they called for Kali. The gods visited Kali and said, "What do we do? How do we get him out of this funk that he's in? We need for him to come forward again and to start doing the work that he's meant to do. Can you please come get him?" Because in that Maha state, Kali and Shiva are this. Kali, Shakti, and Shiva are never separated. So she eventually agrees to come down. She comes down in the form of Parvati, and she starts to try to seduce Shiva to awaken from his meditation, but he's in too deep of a sorrow to do so. So she says, well, the sadhana means everything to him, the discipline, the discernment, the work. So she begins to practice, and she's committing these great acts in front of him, like the cleansing and all different sadhanas, all different spiritual practices, so that he can see or feel the energy and be stirred from his meditation, so that he can see her, hopefully recognize that she actually is just another incarnation of Sati, fall madly in love, marry her, and continue. But he doesn't budge. So she goes over to Kama, and she's really distraught. She's like, what else do I do? And Kama says, okay, I've got a really great idea. All you have to do is increase your sadhana intensity 100-fold, 1,000-fold, however many fold. Just get him to open one eye, just a little bit. And as soon as he does, I'll shoot him with my arrow, because Kama's the Lord of Love, so he has, he's Cupid, right? Kind of, sort of. In modern days, I know, isn't that a cringy comparison? But it gets the point across. So just get him, just like open his one eye a little bit, just to gaze it towards you, and I'll shoot him with the arrow. He'll fall madly in love with you, and it'll all be okay again. So she goes and she continues her sadhana. She increases the intensity multiple times. Finally, Shiva kind of like opens one eye a little tiny bit. Kama goes to shoot him with the arrow and pisses him off. Instead of looking at Parvati and falling madly in love, he looks at Kama, and a ray comes out of his third eye and burns him to ashes. The moment that happens, all desire is gone from the world, because Kama is the Lord of desire. So the animals stop making love, including the humans. There's no more offspring. The plants stop creating. There's no more harvests. Anything that has to do with union is done. Anything that has to do with happiness, joy, enjoyment, elation, there isn't any, because Kama's the Lord of all of that, and he's on the ground in ashes, blowing away in the wind. And Shiva feels very justified, because remember, he's in his embodiment now. And whenever one of the gods, or the aspects of divinity, because there's only one God, even in Hinduism, but there's many different aspects of divinity. whenever they're embodied, they're kind of like you and me. They're susceptible to the play of the gunas, which we'll talk about on another visit. So, but the wife of Kama comes forward. The wife of Kama comes and she says to Shiva, you have harmed me greatly. You are harming the entire world. You, of all beings, are violating the sacred vow of ahimsa. Non-violence, non-harming. Please give me back my husband and allow things to continue as they are meant to continue. Allow the unnecessary suffering to end, the suffering that you have caused in this act. Initially he says no, but eventually he says yes. And he redeems Kama and brings him back. And as soon as he does, passion starts up again, and love, and all of that other stuff that goes with it, and babies are born, and saplings are had, and all that stuff. So when we look at Shiva, we can say a minimum of two things. And believe me, that's a minimum, because there is the maximum is unlimited of what we can say about him. Now it's 2 minutes after 6. Do we have 10 more minutes? Okay, good. Thank you for that. The first thing that we can say is that when Shiva is in a state of meditation, not a state of grief, but in that state of meditation, where his third eye is open and his worldly eyes are closed, it is an all-knowing state, and the all-knowing is unity. And that is what each and every one of us seek in our spiritual dharma, is to come into a knowing of unity, the unity of all things everywhere. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, the one who can see me in all things and all things in me, that one is my favorite. The second thing that we can say about Shiva is when he's embodied, his struggles are the same as ours. But he finds his way through. He eventually comes to the realization of the error of his way and corrects himself. Do we? All we have to do, read the stories of Shiva. Read them and be inspired to self-correct. Read them and be inspired to remember. Read them and be inspired. Read the stories of the Mother Durga. Read the stories of Ganesha. Read the stories of Christ. Read the stories of any name of divinity. And what you will find is that when they're talking about the embodiment, there will always be a story of self-correction. And the self-correction will be done not in a way that is self-harming, damaging to the self, but in a way that is compassionate, forgiving, understanding of the depth of suffering and the importance of remembering. So we're going to end our time together tonight with the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. And Om Namah Shivaya, it's the invocation to Shiva, to the consciousness. Let that consciousness be awakened in each and every one of us. So let's sit tall. Close the eyes.
So I'm just going to repeat that line, Om Namah Shivaya, 4 times. And then it's your turn. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
Whatever path you walk, whatever tradition you belong to, whatever experience that you have in this life, have that experience, walk that path, abide in that tradition, knowing that the purpose of it all is self-knowledge. And not just knowledge of who you think you are, but knowledge of who you really are. In the light of divinity, who you really are. And whatever tradition you follow, understand that somewhere in those teachings there is a guidepost. There is a roadmap. There is a way that you can walk through this life. For me, I found that in yoga, in Sanatana Dharma. For you, it might be something else. Could be Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, whatever it happens to be. Don't stay on the surface. Don't just be happy with going to church on holidays. Don't be happy with just singing the pretty hymns. Go deeper than that. Because the true gift of every tradition is what lies beneath the surface, not what's on the surface. And then equally importantly, be kind to each other. Because when you're not kind to each other, you do not have the space within yourself to take the deeper dive. When we're abiding in violence, violent thought, violent intention, violent action, violent words, then we're full of grief. Like Shiva didn't have the space within him to give Kama a little bit of, grace for a while. We don't have the space either. So practice kindness. It's a superpower. It really is. And the more you practice kindness, not niceness, kindness, two really different things. That's another talk. The more you practice kindness, the more space opens up inside of you. The deeper your dive will go. And the more you'll discover about yourself. So as you can probably already tell, and some of you absolutely already know, I could continue for hours, but I won't. I'll just briefly ask if there are any questions or comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'd like to say thank you to Abhi Niranjana, to Alan Balchandra. So beautiful. Thank you so much for accompanying me. Thank you to Jeanette Rashmi Ma for the space. And all the God and Goddess given blessings to you in this endeavor. May your community come to know quickly what a blessing this is to have a sanctuary that they can come to. And whatever we can do as an extension of your community, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. To be here for one another, to love one another. And to each and every one of you, thank you. It's so good to see so many beautiful faces, some which I know very well, and others which I'm just meeting. But each and every one of you are love embodied. And so for each and every one of you, that is what I see. Would you like to do this again sometime?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, she's the lady to talk to.
She'll phone you, and then you'll phone us.
Yeah, exactly. So we are talking about doing this again.
Oh, please do.
Absolutely. And so we don't know what the schedule is going to be yet, but Jeanette and I will be working on that. So please stay in touch. Check the Facebook page, Jeanette's Facebook page. Sanctuarybythesea.org.
Yes.
Sanctuarybythesea.org, not the one in California. Yeah. I tagged the one in California by mistake.
Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly. And then also you can come to the ashram in Pennsylvania as well. We're out in the Reading area. We do retreats and whatnot out there. We have overnight accommodations and lots of offerings. We also have an ashram in Ireland, in Galway, and we run retreats there if you're interested. in
Which are
2020,
amazing.
what was that?
Which are amazing.
Yes, so this beautiful being was there with us, and wasn't it fun? Oh my gosh, we had such a great time, we really did.
Yes.
Between all the yoga practices, but also the excursions, you know, because we take you out to the different places so that you can actually see Ireland, you know. You're not just there to stay in the house. No, you're there to have a full rounded experience. And we also go to India. We won't go in 2025, but we are looking at 2026. Don't know which part yet, but we'll figure it out. So keep an eye open for that as well. And yeah, be well, be happy, be safe. Much love to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.